Have you ever wondered why some people allow their struggles to actually weaken their faith? But then you see others that actually allow their faith to actually overcome those struggles. What if I were to submit to you that the missing key between getting that breakthrough that you've been looking for in your business, whether that's in your finances, whether that's in your relationships, it's not about what you have or you don't have, but it's eliminating the excuses that you're allowing to tell yourself that's actually what's holding you back. So today in this video, I'm going to teach you how to destroy your excuses, because excuses are the #1 killer to your success. Now, before I get into this passage that I want to read to you guys, I think there's a few things that we have to define first. For example, there might have even been a time where you have probably pondered, like, what does it really mean to being successful? And I think that's a pretty great question, because it's something that I asked myself before too. And, you know, oftentimes in our society, you know, it oftentimes means like, oh, it's because of the amount of money that you have, or even the house that you live in, or, you know, what could be a contributor of success is, you know, the car that you drive, or even the fame that you have. But I want to submit to you that it's in none of those things. What if I were to submit to you that what success really is fulfilling the very calling of what God has ordained and assigned to you? I can give you an example. There was a time where we didn't have the best transportation. And so it created a lot of problems, specifically when we wanted to move food or even just get to a certain location faster. That was a huge problem, that there was an individual that wanted to use all of their time and their resources to come up with an elegant solution so they could fulfill that very problem, the void that was there. And so they created a car. And if I were to ask you, what is the actual purpose of a car? Is to get you from point A to point B. That's probably what you would tell me, right? But what if we actually decided, instead of using it for what it was designed for, we actually went and decided to go buy a car, and instead of us driving it, we actually filled it up with a bunch of dirt, put a plant in the inside of it, and let it go out through the sunroof? Now I gotta ask you, at that very point of what we just did, regardless of the way it looks, whether it was a Ferrari or anything else, it might look good, but the key is this: is that Ferrari successful in what it's doing? No, because it's not fulfilling the very purpose of why it got designed in the first place. So I wanted to give some context on that. The next thing that I want to address too is, what is faith? What does it mean to have faith? So in Hebrews chapter 11 tells us that now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So what that means is we have a certain level of just trust and confidence in God for the principles that he's sharing us, because they're promises that if you abide in these principles, the promise of what you're doing when you're operating in these principles, you get a certain result. And so it's having the faith in what you do not yet see. And so I want to talk about someone that was actually demonstrating their faith in every way possible. There was a man named Job that was considered perfect and upright in all of his ways. He was a person that was, you know, that feared God, and he obscured from evil. Now, the word obscured means avoid evil. So this was someone that was just completely yielded to God. He even had 7 sons, 3 daughters. He had 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camel, 500 ox, and he had 500 donkeys. And he had just an amazing household, right? But he was considered, you know, the greatest man of all the East. So everybody knew of him, not only just for the things that he had, but also the wisdom that he had too as well, you know, because he was doing a lot of teaching as well. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of context on the person that we're about to talk about, because I think that's very significant to the story. He even went so far to, there will be times where his sons and his daughters would actually have these massive feasts. And after they were done, Job took extreme precautions to make sure he even gave burnt offerings to the Lord on their behalf. And he did not want to think for a second that they might be doing some kind of sinning or even just cursing God's name in their hearts. And so back in this time, just to give you some context, back in this time, if you even cursed God's name in vain or, did wicked things, there would be people that would just drop dead. And so this was someone that took this very seriously and didn't want to, take anything up for chance. So he was like, look, I'm gonna make sure that my household is taken care of. It was amazing. So now I want to read the particular scripture that now we're all caught up into what specifically were some of the struggles that Job had to now go through. So you can find this in Job chapter 1. We're going to be reading from 6 to 22. This is in the King James Version. And it says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also amongst them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and from in the earth, and from walking up and down it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth? A perfect and upright man, one that feared God and obscured evil. And then Satan said unto the Lord, Thou, Job, fear God for nothing? For naught? Has not thou made a hedge about him and about his house and about all that he's have in every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thy hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thy hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord, and there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in the eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job and said, The oxen were plowing, and the asses feeding beside them. And the Sabeans fell upon them and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, The fire of God fallen from heaven, and have burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I only escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, The cherubims had out 3 bands and fell upon the camels and have carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword. I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, Thou sons and thou daughters were eating and drinking wine in the elder's brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and smote the 4 corners of the house. And it fell upon the young men, and they are dead. I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshiped and said, Naked came out my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thee. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. This is absolutely amazing. I mean, we're just seeing Job is thinking all of this is just going to be a normal day. And all of a sudden, here comes rushing in one of his messengers and telling him about all the tragedy that's now happening, of saying how the donkeys and the oxens are plowing, meaning they are loosening up the ground, and they're eating the livestock. But then the Sabeans came and took them away, and also killed off all of his servants that were tending to the animals. It's crazy. Right after that, another person is coming and saying, what happened? There's fire, the fire of God is, falling from the heavens and burning up, the sheep, and also consumed the servants that were tending to those sheep as well. It's all these things that were starting to happen right here before Job's eyes. And then there came another. So all of this is very significant to the story itself. There was so much that he lost, and he could have made a lot of excuses of why I'm going to now curse God's name, but he chose to go a different route. Why? Because he was so yielded in God and had so much trust and faith in the one that he said, naked I came out my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. He understood where he came from. He understood who ultimately had the power and the say-so over his life. And he said, the Lord gave and the Lord have taken away. So regardless of the circumstances that are now happening to him in the present, he kept his integrity and he kept his faith system so deeply rooted in God. Why? Because he's been practicing this for years. So this right now is what he knows. This is what he's staying true to. Now I got to ask ourselves some deep rooted questions. We may be going through just one thing of feeling like, well, I just don't like to go to work. I do like, why do I have to go to work today? I'm just, oh man, I'm just tired and didn't really get the rest and all these different things. And we're just being ungrateful for just that. This man just literally lost almost everything to him that he truly, I would say care about. I mean, he even lost his kids in the process of all of this, his servants. I mean, his whole life just got turned upside down, and he still kept his integrity. And we're just over here, having not even the glimpse of what he had to go through. And we're over here just complaining and making excuses of why we're not going to be obedient to the calling that's in our lives, or even trying to discover it, asking God, what is it that we're supposed to be doing? Show me, please show me the purpose that you have for my life. He understood. And it's just crazy because the excuses, they only come from fear, doubt, and the lack of trust in God. So when we're feeling ungrateful, we really have to ask ourselves, do we even really know what our purpose is? Because oftentimes the excuses that we make for ourselves is the very reason of why we're making the excuses themselves, because we don't understand, again, who we came from. We were made in the image of God. And so there's no way that when God is calling you to the assignment of what he's asking you to do, that at that very point, you're just over here doubting and having all this worry. And so it's funny because, like I said, again, we could be just thinking, oh, I don't have the money. I don't have the right connections. I'm just not ready. But the thing is, see, God doesn't call the qualified. He actually qualifies the called. That's absolutely fantastic. I want you to think back to everything that actually happened. God made it known that there's no other man like Job to Satan. And here it is, Satan believed that the very reason of why Job was so yielded to God was just simply because of all the things that he had. See, he had Job completely wrong. So the thing I gotta ask us is this. The excuses that, stops us from, starting that business, investing, or just pursuing in our purpose and all these different things. I can remember a time in my life where I'm always telling my sons that we have responsibilities in this world. And one of the main responsibilities that we have is having provision over you guys' life, protecting you guys and providing for you guys. Now, what would happen if we were to lose our jobs, can we sit here and say that that is going to be an excuse that we're going to use or why we don't provide for you guys? And every single one of them was just like, absolutely not. It has nothing to do with it. Right. So we don't make excuses of why we can't do certain things. And so that was something I've been telling them for years. And then I can remember this just like as if it was yesterday. This happened maybe this was about a year ago. And I get a notice from my boss of saying, look, business is not going well and we're basically gonna have to start making some cuts. So your last day is going to be, on this particular day. And here it is, the very thing of what I was teaching my sons, that there's going to be no excuses for why we can't provide for you guys, regardless if we lose our jobs or whatever the case may be. We're not going to make excuses for that. And so it was a very testing time. And I could have used that excuse, well, dang, I don't have a job now. What am I going to do? I don't have the money. Or I don't have the right people. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And I stayed yielded. And I just kept asking. I just kept asking God, okay, what is it that now you're calling me to? Because the thing was too as well, I also, before all of this happened, I asked God, if this is not what you're actually wanting me to focus on, then take it away. All I got to say is be careful what you ask for and be careful what you pray for, right? And so I believe God got an amazing sense of humor, right? But nevertheless, it happened. And the beautiful aspect is, if I would have thought that I wasn't prepared for the circumstances that he's allowing me to go through, then it would have hindered me from actually being able to see the opportunity that he was giving me. Because you see, 2 years ago, I wound up actually investing. And at that point in time, for the first 2 years, I wasn't seeing pretty much really any results, but I was staying obedient to the process of being able to multiply my money. And sure enough, once when this opportunity presented itself, he gave me something years ago that allowed me to be prepared in the very moment in time now to being able to go through something like that so that I still could provide for my family. And so it's the opportunities that, are we using the opportunities that have been given, or are we just using them as excuses and saying, well, this is the reason why I'm not qualified? So it's just something to think about. We can make excuses, or we can allow God to show us what it is that we have to be willing to do and just stay true to that. So the thing that I really want to talk about is this. Job was not cursed, but he was chosen. Job was suffering not because he sinned. He was suffering because he was faithful. Now, ain't that interesting? The very reason of why he got called to such a testing time was because God trusted him. And he even said it himself. He told Satan himself, he said, this is a perfect and upright man. There's no other man like this in the earth. Imagine your God telling you that there's nothing else like you. And the thing about it is, that's true. There's never going to be another you. There's never going to be another me. And so going back into what success really is God again created you for a particular time in a particular season for you to fulfill the need of this world. You have a purpose in your life. So stop making excuses about what you don't have and start focusing on what you do have. You have God every step of the way. Because remind you, this man Job lost everything. He could have made all kinds of excuses. He lost his wealth. He lost his health. He even lost his kids. Because see, the crazy thing is this, in the second chapter, God now confronts the Lord again. Well, Satan actually comes and to the presence of God. And now God is saying, have you not considered my servant Job? He's a perfect and upright man. There's nothing else like him and all these different things. And God was letting him know, like, Here it is, you caused so much wreaking havoc on his life with no cause. And you even tried to turn him against me based off of the experience that he had where, one of the servants was telling him that, the fire of heaven was, falling down on the earth. And so it's just crazy of stuff like that. And the next thing that, the enemy was now trying to say was, well, if you present forth thy hand again, that if you curse his flesh and his bones, then now that he was going to actually curse, God to his face. And so here it is. This is the second infliction that, Job is now having to suffer with. And now his health is going just crazy. So here it is, even by this point in time in his life, not only was he getting questioned by his friends, but he was also getting questioned by his wife himself. Like, this is the thing that his wife told him. Said, you can find this in Job chapter 2, verse 9. And it said, then said his wife unto him, dost thou still remain thy integrity? Curse God and die. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive? And all this did not Job sin with his lips. This shows us that not only when you're going through certain circumstances, there may even be people that think now that you're doing something wicked, or that you should be, the reason why you're getting punished is because you deserve it. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not always the case. And you have to be so conscious and aware that when you are wanting to fulfill the purpose that God has set before you, just know that he's going to send forth certain trials that are not to destroy you, but only to prepare you for what he has for you. Because see, here's the thing. Don't let losses make you lose your faith. Because you see, excuses making, I'll put it like this. Excuses making is you feeling entitled to the things that you think you deserve or are supposed to have. But Job knew that everything belongs to God. It even says in Job chapter 1, verse 21, the Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. See, he had his priorities straight. He understood what we have is temporary, but faith is eternal. So if you're not seeing that success yet in your business, don't be like most people, where most people quit when things get hard, when they lose money, when they lose clients, or they don't even see the clients coming in. When success doesn't happen instantly, stay yielded. Stay yielded to that assignment. And don't make excuses for it. The most important thing is this. Stop comparing your circumstances to other people and complaining for what you have or you don't have. You see, Job didn't ask, why me? Well, at least as of right now. But instead, he stayed focused on God because that's what he believed was the ultimate prize. He had his priorities straight. In Philippians chapter 2, verse 14, it says, do all things without complaining or arguing. It's absolutely incredible. Like, just that principle alone, how many excuses at that point would you make? Absolutely none. It immediately, at that point, we're now grateful, and we now are just wanting to be more obedient to the very calling. Regardless of what we do have or what we don't have, we're going to stay yielded. We're going to do all things without complaining or arguing. This means as well, when we wake up and there's certain things that we don't want to do, whether that's to go to our job or whatever the case may be, work out, those are things that we know we must do. And so what would happen if instead you're making it seem like it's just this daunting task of saying, dang, I have to go, to that job, or I have to go work out. What if you start replacing some of those word choices that you're using where it's making you feel like you're just dreading to do those things? What if you say, instead of that, wow, I have the opportunity to go to work and be able to provide, or I have the opportunity to work my business and get the fulfillment out of making sure that my clients are getting everything that they need, or I have the opportunity to exercise and give glory back to God's name with cherishing my body. It's all these little slight adjustments, because you see, the thing is this: excuses are a language. And when you continue to operate in this language, it leads to death. Because the thing is this: your purpose is allowing you to feel fulfilled. And so when you're not operating in that purpose, you feel like you're dying, like there's something that's just missing in your life. And so I challenge you to stop using this type of language, because it's going to lead down a path of destruction. So we have to develop a Job-like mentality, or even perspective in life, that regardless of no matter what happens, we continue to keep our eyes on the prize, which is God. Treat every loss as a lesson, not a defeat. Stay obedient even when it doesn't make sense. That is absolutely key. Stay yielded to your purpose. Even when things are not seem like they're working, again, have faith. It's the substance and things to hope for, and evidence of things yet not seen. Continue to keep having that now faith. And the beautiful aspect is, because he was so yielded. Now, remind you, this wasn't just like a night and day difference where he had to go through those things, and after he succeeded, that all of a sudden God was just like, okay, now, the next day you're all good. You're all, healed from your health and you got everything. No. This was years of time that he had to suffer through this trial and journey. Again, I don't know what it's going to be for you. I don't know if your story is going to be my story either. But the thing is this: in Job chapter 42, verses from between 12 and 15, it says this: so the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep and 6,000 camel and 1,000 oxen and thousands of she asses, and all the land where no women found so favor as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them inheritance amongst their brethren. After this lived Job 140 years, and saw his sons and his sons' sons, even 4 generations. So Job died, being old and full of days. Imagine that. So here it is. There was such a time that he had so much that he had to endure, that was just molding him and reshaping him and continuing to keep allowing him to operate in his faith for such a time that even God blessed him for him to be able to see 4 generations even after that time. And what he had in the beginning, he made that light work and multiplied everything that he had from before. And now he has kids again. So this is an absolutely fantastic story, but I just want to emphasize some key elements and points of takeaways. Success is not determined by what you have or you don't have. Success is you fulfilling the purpose that God has set before you. When you're doing that, you're going to feel fulfilled regardless of what you do. Job's story is teaching us the true success is rooted in the faith and not in your circumstances. So the thing that we have to remember is, don't let the things that you have or you don't have, even when people are telling you certain things about you that they believe is true, don't let those things define you. But allow yourself to be so yielded to what God says you are, because you were made in the image of God. And so let's act like it. So if this video has blessed you in any kind of way, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And let me know, were you speaking this language at one point, the excuses, were they holding you back? And what words are now you going to use that are now going to allow you to have that now faith, where you're now going to start operating on the now, not putting it off until tomorrow, but now you're going to start operating and asking God, what is it that you are wanting me to fulfill? So I hope this bless you in any kind of way, and y'all stay blessed.